FBI agents just said, look, you're just like me. You have the same wants and desires. I want a free country. And so don't you. So why are you around here bothering me? You know everything about me. I'm not going to run off and shoot people or something like that. You know that. So leave me alone. Go back and bother somebody else that's a bad guy. And I've had those conversations, just like you have.
Yeah, interesting. I can walk into the FBI office in Albuquerque. It took me 3 times. I kept having to take off my camera, my weapons, my knife, my Leatherman. But I did get in, and I was able to walk back out. And they said, well, hi, Clay. Yeah, we know who you are. But I was able to walk out, so I haven't done anything wrong. They know that. And yet...
They just think you have potential for it. And they get a job. And, they get a call from the ADL and say, hey, this guy Clay over here, he's as nutty as a fruitcake, and we think he's going to run around killing Jews, so you better go get him. And that's all they need. And I've seen the plants one after another. I've been involved in this 50 years. Everything from the Minutemen upward. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. And they make a living out of creating something out of nothing.
Yes. Yes.
And that Southern Poverty Law Center is a good example. I talked to that nitwit once, and I told him, if you want to go into the next life, just keep on screwing with me.
Morris, the sleaze deed, the child molester, the pedophile, the homosexual. Is that are we talking about the same?
That's the guy. That's the guy.
I ran him out of 3 cities by sending his divorce papers to my subscribers in the town where he was having a book signing. So I don't think he's not too fond of me. And he and the ADL have managed to kill almost every company that I've done. I just got back from Hollywood and met with somebody that wanted me to do a television series for him, and I wrote it, and I got it, but the deal never went through because I wouldn't sign a contract that would give them control of everything I've ever written for the last 40 years. So I drove 500 miles to meet with somebody. I drove 500 miles to meet with somebody with a project in hand, and it was a scam. It was just as much of a scam as anything I've ever run across from Nigeria.
Well, Nigeria is one place you do not want to be. It is one of the most foul places in the face of the earth. And never slip and fall in a bungee ditch.
Yes. Yeah, the FBI and I used to have arguments about that. I said, yeah, I think it's a bunch of fat guys sitting around a room over here. There ain't no beautiful women in Nigeria. And they said, no, we think they're skinny guys, Clay. Now, Bob, how do we oppose this? I started the militias. I started the Free American.
By doing what we're doing, Clay, by sitting and talking about it and having people listen to the good points and the bad points. Exposure of ideas is good. You don't have to agree with them. It's just like the listeners, they don't have to agree, but it's something for them to consider. It's just like trying to hide things. Hiding things is stupid because what happens is that you get exposed eventually for whatever it is you're doing, whether it's good or bad. And so why would you make it secret in the first place? I mean, during the great intellectual battle, we'll call it, between the United States and communism over the last 50 years there, I mean, you can walk into a library and get a book on communism and read it. And books about other things that Americans didn't particularly agree with. But it's there. You have to understand the enemy in the enemy's capacities. You never underestimate the enemy. You never say, well, they won't do that. Well, they know that, and they'll go do it. So there's an art form to putting out the word on what's really going on and staying safe in order to be able to continue to do it. Because if you're dumb enough not to do that, your voice and your mission and what you've got to present to people is terminated. So you don't want that. And so you work at surviving in what you're doing and still getting the message out at the same time.
You know, it seems strange to me. We went through a Cold War for 50 years. Our enemies were the communists. The communists had nuclear weapons. And then suddenly, all of the communists are located over there in Israel and or in Palestine. And we're not supposed to talk about it. Joe McCarthy was demonized. They made McCarthyism a bad word because he was pointing out who the communists were in this country. And are Americans so brainwashed that they think that this threat that we had a Cold War over for 50 years is somehow gone?
Well, what I thought was interesting about McCarthy, and of course I lived through that and knew a great deal about it. They would call him anti-Semite, and his two assisting attorneys were Jewish. And one of them was a screaming homosexual. And but they would go to what he did, and they work with him. Look at Myron Fagan, Hollywood director, right in the middle of all of the people who were involved in communism in Hollywood in those days. And he knew them all. And his son Bruce did as well. I knew all those people.
You know, they call me anti-Semite. That's what they've used to queer any deals that I had, magazines that I had sold that had nothing to do with politics. And I said, wait a minute, you know, I talk about Myron Fagan, I talk about Aaron Russo, I talk about the gentleman that gave the lecture at Willard Hall and exposed the whole deal behind the Zionist involvement in World War I, II, and Benjamin Friedman. He was Jewish. So this isn't about anti-Semitism. This is about identifying the criminals, and that's exactly what.
And it shouldn't go any further than that. And you know, I think we've rather exhausted the subject today. But what you do is you just walk by it and forget it. I mean, it's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's not productive. And you just ignore those people. You identify them as criminals and leave it at that.
What do we have to look forward to here? Now, Aaron Russo, in a conversation with Nicholas Rockefeller, says that the whole point and what they are planning on doing is crashing the dollar and replacing it with the chip. Would you agree with that? Is that what they're planning? I mean,
well, I will agree that that's what they want to do, and they probably are going to attempt it, and I don't think it will be successful. And one of the main reasons why, is the exposure that we've been giving it